drainage pipe, and then just having one drop after one drop after one drop just fall in your head, and you're unable to move. Anytime you move, the same thing happens wherever you are. Anyway, standing outside for a good hour or so, watching hundreds of brothers and many sisters come and go from the masjid. Many of whom, mashallah, well behaved, and others not so much. And subhanAllah, something hit me when I was there, watching the brothers. And I recognized that some people's tolerance levels are up here. Some brothers came up to me and said, mashallah, jazakallahu khair for standing outside in the rain with us. And they were inside. Other brothers were like, brother, why are you making us wait outside here? Let us inside, what is going on? And both brothers standing in the rain, both brothers receiving the same thing that I'm receiving as well. But I recognize that there is tafawut, there is a difference in the tolerance levels of people. And just like tolerance, there is a difference in pretty much every other characteristic with regards to our own selves with one another. Each of us varies in our ability to accept and to reject, to accept and to reject, to accept something and not accept something, to wade through certain circumstances with a certain level of self-discipline and self-control, and others we lose control as we wade through those same challenges. And looking at that, one would think that one type of people is stronger than another. One type of people is better than another. The people who have a higher tolerance level in the rain are better than the people who have a lower tolerance level in the rain. And if we were to lay that out universally over every other characteristic and every other challenge in our lives, would that be true? I don't know. I don't think so. There is one thing that differentiates each of us from the other. And there's one thing that decides who is better than the other. And that one thing is, drum roll please, the taqwa of Allah. Everybody knows that, right? We know that the taqwa in your heart, how strong your connection is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how strong your love and your closeness and the relationship that you have to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the fulcrum and the decider as to which one of us is better than the other. Thankfully for each other, nobody can measure your taqwa. I can't stand here and say, brother, you've got about 60%, and the brother over there, you've got about 75%, and the brother there, you've got 99%, mashallah, and me standing here, I have 100%. No, you can't even tell your own taqwa in your own heart, let alone others, right? So that's something else profound that stood out, which is, despite our variance in our levels of tolerance and other characteristics that we have, despite our variance in our iman, there is no way to tell which of us is better than the other. And then something else stood out when I was standing outside in the rain, which is, if I can't tell which of you is better than the other, which of you is better than me, if I'm better than you or you're better than me, then there is no way for me to have any type of self-pride over you, any type of arrogance over you, any type of I have more right than you. And just the same is that you don't have any standing to do that to me. We don't have any standing to do that to each other. What remains then? وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. The only thing that remains is to cooperate with one another upon righteousness and piety. Anything that leads towards goodness, that is what we should be cooperating with one another on. Not because you're doing it or I'm doing it or somebody else is doing it, because it in and of itself is good or leads to good. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. And do not cooperate with one another upon ithm, upon the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and udwan, anything that leads to animosity, hatred and enmity between each other. These are the things that we should be staying away from. So it's not the person in question. So I could look at someone and I could think, you know what, that brother, he doesn't always come to the masjid. He comes maybe, only in Jummah. I never see him on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just on a Friday he comes, and he comes quick, right at the end of the khutbah. And he'll come when the imam is doing the takbir, or even when he's just about to finish his second ruku'. Right? And suddenly I'm going to sit there and judge that brother and say, no, I'm somehow better than him because I spend 7 hours, 8 hours a day in the masjid. Come on, man. Right? I can't do that. Why? Because that is leading towards enmity and hatred. That is leading towards ithm and udwan. So anything that leads in that direction, I know 100%, regardless of who the person is, whether that person prays or doesn't pray. Obviously if he prays, mashallah. If he doesn't pray, shame on him. But the point is, regardless of what he is and who he does and what his actions are, there has to be that ta'awanu ala al-birri wa taqwa wa la ta'awanu ala al-ithmi wal udwan. It has to lead to good things. My relationship with you as brothers and sisters isn't based on whether you're sound or not, whether you're a good person or not. It's based on what is going to lead to what is best. And what does that mean? Does that mean that everybody that does sin gets away with it? And we should nod our heads and be like, it's no problem, I don't know if I'm better than you, so I'm not going to say anything? No. That doesn't mean that at all. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. If it wasn't for people pushing back others, the good pushes back the bad tries to overcome the good. If it wasn't for these forces always at odds with each other, there would be corruption spread across the land. But rather we are here amongst one another. Some of us are good and some of us are not so good, to help one another. The good amongst us push back the bad. We encourage good. We encourage that everybody has iman, has taqwa, has a good character, is kind towards each other, has love, has humility, doesn't have arrogance in their hearts, and so on and so forth. That's what the good people from amongst us are supposed to encourage. Now the bad from amongst us, what they do is, they do bad things, but they also stop the good guys from having too much ghurur. Anybody know what ghurur is? Ghurur is that characteristic where you feel that you're better than the other. You look at someone else and you're like, you know what? He's wearing an Arsenal jersey, I'm better than him. Because I support Chelsea. I'm missing. Right? You look at somebody else and you, in your heart of hearts, feel that you're better than him. And you deserve more than him. And he doesn't deserve the good that comes his way. Right? Just because of an assumption that you have made with regards to him and his character. Right? That's ghurur. And from then on, anything that emanates from that brother or sister has got to be bad because they're bad as a person. And anything that emanates from me has got to be good because I'm good as a person. That's ghurur. And that is a characteristic that the Prophet ﷺ has forbade any Muslim from having. It's haram to have this characteristic. So if you find yourself ever looking at someone and thinking that I'm better than them and I deserve more than them, you have ghurur in your heart and you need to do something about it. In summary, brothers, the bad guys are there, or the bad people are there to keep the good people in check also. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. And that way, inshallah, the bad become good, and the good don't become bad as a result of their own pride and arrogance. So inshallah, the moral of the story is, we work together with one another to assist one another, and we don't judge and belittle the other for what they do. Everybody has mistakes. Don't look at someone as beneath you just because they sin a different way than you do. You sin when no one can see you, and he sins when everyone can see him. Who's worse? Allah knows. Only Allah knows. Right? You have haya from people, but you don't have haya from Allah, so you sin in private. But that person, he may have haya from Allah, but he's just doing it out of habitual nature. You don't know what's going on. Right? So let us work together with one another, and that's the only way we're going to come together, because everybody has faults. If we were to hold each other to account for each other's misgivings, there is no one here that has the right to stand on this minbar and give a khutbah. None of us have that right. None of us. But it is only because we have a forgiving nature, because we are supposed to overlook the other, we are supposed to make excuses, at least 70. التمس لأخاك السبعين عذرا, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Look out for your brother, at least 70 excuses for the mistakes that they make. Right? But we don't. One excuse, two excuse maybe. The third one is like, that's it. Had enough, the line has been drawn. Yeah. Your line is very close to you, man. You need to social distance a little bit more. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to have that rahmah in our hearts for one another, so that we're able to work together. Our hearts are able to come close to each other. We're able to look over the faults of one another, so we don't hold grudges. We don't have any jealousy and enmity in our hearts. That stops us, that's the blockade from us achieving our true potential, what we are able to achieve as an ummah. Rather, we are stuck in the pit of judgment. We are stuck in the pit of belittlement, of the inability to achieve and the constant looking down on one another. And even if one of us manages to pry himself out of that pit, mashallah, there's 10, 50 to 100 of us that are willing to drag that brother right back down. So let us, inshallah, alleviate ourselves from these characteristics that are illnesses of the heart, inshallah. And that only comes through dhikr, that comes through ibadah, that comes through recognizing your own impermanence, your own insignificance, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Almighty, He is the one in control, He is the one who has predestined everything for everybody. Your rizq is already written. No matter what you do, you're only going to get that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has apportioned for you. You actually have no power in this world. As long as you recognize that, that is the only way you are going to overcome the ailments of your heart. Otherwise, everybody is righteous on the outside. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. The best way in order for us to rekindle that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the best way for us to alleviate the ailments of the heart, is through direct connection with Allah. And there are many ways to do this: your salah, recitation of the Quran, engaging in dhikr, and so on and so forth. Many ibadat that you can do. One of the best ways though is dua. Right? وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. If your servants were to ask you, Ya Rasulullah, about me, tell them I am near, I am right there. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. One just has to call and I will respond. Subhanallah. So there is an hour on the day of Jummah in which if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asked for anything, He doesn't leave the one who asks Him empty-handed. We don't know when that hour is, but we hope and pray that it is this hour that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His forgiveness, for His mercy, for Him to overlook our shortcomings, for Him to save us from the punishment of the hellfire. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَّدُنكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنتَ الْوَهَّابُ ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا آمين يا رب العالمين. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العلي الجليل يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم ولذكر الله